Teachers of Reddit, have you ever correctly sensed a student's sociopathic tendencies? Or been surprised by a student's later heinous crime? I have a student who I haven't heard about yet. A few years ago, I had a little girl in my class who took pleasure in hurting other kids in secret. She'd pinch them, then threaten to hurt them more if they tattled on her. She had all the kids in my class terrified about her. Due to her own past being sketchy, Mom was in jail for attacking her father and was caught walking the kids while drunk through a country club golf course in the middle of the night on their way to punish him. The girl was already in counseling. My eyes were open to what she was doing in the first week of class when I saw her kick a child, then admit to what she did. I kept a close eye on her all year long. The girl couldn't be trusted near my class hamster because she'd shove scissors through the bars of the cage whenever she managed to be in that area of the room. She told me that she didn't understand why I wouldn't let her play with the hamster. I made nightly phone calls to her family, but they didn't seem to be concerned in the slightest by her behavior. I called DCF, who checked up on her and made sure she was in counseling, but really didn't do anything beyond that. She failed 3rd grade because she wasn't reading or doing math on grade level. On the last day of class, she proudly announced to me that her grandma was enrolling her in private school because she deserved 4th grade because I didn't teach her anything. She never did homework, nor completed any classwork. I shouldn't have snapped, but I did, and told her that she had to do 3rd grade again because she wasn't ready for 4th. And her new school would call me and I'd tell them the same thing. At that point, I saw pure malicious crazy enter her eyes. She ran back to my hamster cage, ripped the door open, and squeezed my hamster to death. I ran over to try and stop her, but she looked me in the eye, smiled and said, "Looks like neither of us will do 3rd grade again," threw the corpse on the floor, and walked over to her desk and sat down to draw pictures. I called the dean, who took her out of my room, and thankfully I've never seen her again. The last I heard was that her grandmother was at my school screaming because my principal refused to tell her new school that she should go on to 4th grade because she didn't master 3rd grade. I'm expecting to hear her name on the news in a few years, guilty of serial torture and killing. I've never had a child scare me the way that she did. Oh wow, what an adorable little angel. Pinching and threatening her classmates, shoving scissors through a hamster cage, and killing a helpless animal just for fun? How cute! And her family's reaction? Just perfect. I'm sure this little girl will grow up to be a wonderful member of society. I mean, who needs accountability or consequences for their actions, right? Let's just sit back and wait for her to become a notorious serial killer. Sounds like a great plan. There was a student I was teaching in Minneapolis. He was a freshman who would always sharpen his pencil 4 or 5 times in a class period and was always trying to be secretive about it. He ended up stabbing someone in the back of the neck during passing time before the end of the school year. Now he goes to a special school. Wow, what a great success story. I'm sure that special school will be the perfect place for him to hone his pencil sharpening skills and continue his promising career in violent assault. It's a shame he couldn't keep his enthusiasm for pencil sharpening contained to just his own writing utensils. But hey, everyone has to find their own creative outlet somehow. There was a popular kid in my school a while back. Charming, witty, and everyone loved him when he was around. He was an informant in catching another student with dangerous contraband once, so the administration loved him too. But I always noticed that when he was alone, he seemed cold and calculating. Turns out, when he got older, he changed his name and became a mass murderer in the UK. Just goes to show how that you can never expect who'll become a dark wizard. Oh, what a heartwarming story. It's so nice to see that even a charming and beloved student can grow up to be a mass murderer. It really gives us all hope, doesn't it? I mean, who needs trust and security when we have the thrilling possibility of having a charming classmate turn out to be a serial killer? It's like playing Russian roulette with people's lives. So exciting. I used to run the student life department of a small private college. Part of my work was to supervise the dorm staff, made up of students who worked as resident assistants and a dorm manager. Just after the start of one school year, the dorm manager brought a student to my attention. The young man, a first-year student, had mouthed off to the dorm manager in the cafeteria over a very minor infraction. The manager didn't want the event to be a full write-up for the kid, but he did want me to talk to the student because the manager felt the kid was odd. I brought the student in for an informal meeting. It went well, but the student unnerved me by repeatedly, instantly switching emotional states from blank, unreadable to sad to conciliatory to disinterested to friendly over the course of the meeting. Otherwise, he was very sharp and well-spoken. Over the course of that year, he was involved in a number of incidents that eventually led me to require that he speak with an on-campus counselor. After securing the student's permission, the counselor told me that it was possible he had a serious emotional problem, but it was the first time he had been in counseling and it seemed to help him. Things quieted down for a while and I got busy with other student problems. Then, near the end of the school year, a rumor started that the student had brought his girlfriend to campus and was hiding her in an unused dorm room that was closed for renovation. I dismissed it as gossip that had grown around the student because he was considered a weird kid. I was so wrong. I've learned since then to listen to all campus rumors and investigate. I got a call from the city police one afternoon. In fact, the student had brought his girlfriend down to live with him in the dorm secretly. He thought she was being mistreated by her family, and he was trying to save her. This was a delusion. She was 17, so her parents turned the incident into the cops as a kidnapping. The city police didn't want to arrest the boy. They wanted to just get the girl back to her parents and have the boy make an apology because the girl had originally gone with him willingly. So they called my office to give us an alert that they were coming to campus in 45 minutes to talk to the student and get the girl. I went over to the dorm with my head of security, a really great guy and very reliable staffer. While we were standing outside the dorm discussing what to do, a student came running out, pale-faced and yelling, "He's beating her up!" We ran into the dorm to the young man's room. Apparently he and his girlfriend had been having an argument. She had called her parents, which led to the police call to me. She wanted to go back and he didn't understand why. His emotions switched and he went into a rage. We walked in as he was slamming her head into the bathtub. My head of security grabbed the boy and threw him off the girl. We got the girl out bloodied and sobbing. I handed her off to a resident advisor who was trained in first aid. The RA called for an ambulance while my security officer wrestled with the boy on the ground. My security guy was a huge man and the student was a small guy, about 5'7", but the kid kept wrenching out of the guard's hands before he could be handcuffed. The student's emotions switched again and he became pleading and sad. I was pretty much the only person on staff that he trusted, and I was able to keep him occupied by talking to him while my security guard kept him inside the dorm gate. The student kept saying he just wanted to talk to his girlfriend about what happened. Finally, the cops showed up with the ambulance and they took the girl to the hospital. I learned later that she had a minor concussion. The cops took the student away and I gave them the student's family contact information. Then, after a brief emotional breakdown of my own in an alley away from anyone else, I went back to my office and called the student's father to let him know the young man was expelled. The father went ballistic on me, but he quieted down as soon as I told him his son was at the police station for assault. I found out later that the young man likely was suffering from male borderline personality disorder. I still think about him today and wonder if he has survived his illness. I left the job a year later to continue my own educational path. I learned that the boy's father sued the school for the boy's tuition and room fees. I don't know how that turned out. Oh, wow, what an uplifting story. It's always great to hear about emotionally unstable students who bring their kidnapped girlfriends to live secretly on campus and end up beating them up in a fit of rage. And let's not forget about the lawsuit because why not add some legal drama to the mix? It's just so heartwarming to know that student life departments have to deal with such charming individuals. I teach 6th grade in an inner-city school, so most of the kids that I come across are still impressionable enough that you can turn their behavior around pretty easily with a little extra attention, except for John. Working with the demographic that our school attracts, it's very rare to find a student who has 2 highly involved supportive parents, has parents who have had some sort of higher education, has parents who have competitive careers, or have siblings who are in college. John was fortunate enough to have all of these in his favor, and he arguably had the most desirable home life of any of our students. He had friends, was very bright, and had a clear idea of who he was and what his interests were. Which is why it surprised us when he started showing signs of serious impulse control issues. The first big issue was that he would lose his temper and snap, completely unprovoked, at his classmates, calling them horrible names for such offenses as sniffling during class, turning a page in their book too loudly, or raising their hand to answer a question. He showed no remorse for upsetting other students, including his friends. and even smirked and laughed when a girl began crying hysterically after he had said something particularly cruel. He topped off the first semester by bringing an airsoft gun to class and pointing it at kids under a table while laughing to himself. As it turns out, although the gun was loaded, it was broken, so the school decided that bringing a broken toy to class was not grounds for expulsion. His temper flare-ups continued, and when the Chardon High School shooting happened, we're in Northeast Ohio, so it was very close to home and all over the local news for months, 3 students came to me independently of one another and told me that they were afraid that John was going to do something like that in our class. So I was stuck with a kid with an explosive temper and sociopathic tendencies who was frightening my other students that the school refused to do anything about. Finally, one day, I had reached my limit with him. Detentions, suspensions, referring him to therapy, one-on-one discussions, positive reinforcement, bribing him with rewards, parent conferences. I had tried every trick in the book and nothing had worked. In a desperate attempt to create a class where the rest of my students felt safe, I revoked his speaking privileges. Instead, I handed him a blank journal and told him to write everything he wanted to say down rather than blurting it out. It eventually became a routine where he would write down his thoughts, hand his journal to me at the end of the day, and I would read it and write a note back to him. Well, this last-ditch effort to regain control of my classroom clicked with him. Within weeks, he became a better listener, began writing about how guilty he felt for being so cruel to people, and even earned back his speaking privileges and began saying nothing but kind things to other students. I saw a complete shift in his demeanor, and before the end of the year, he had transformed from a psychopath to a happy, well-liked little boy. He stops by to touch base with me regularly now that he's in 7th grade, and every time I see him, he is smiling, happy, surrounded by friends, and saying nothing but positive things. I'm absolutely floored by this transformation. When I first started teaching, I told myself I would never give up on a student. I'm so embarrassed to say that I had given up on John, but he truly taught me that no child is beyond helping. It's just a matter of finding the right trick to get through to them. Finally, a story with a decent ending. Sheesh, man. This is the perfect example of what all teachers should strive to be. We're just lucky that those other students complaining eventually pushed the teacher in the right direction in order to get him back on track. Well done, people. Well done. When you spend several hours a day with a student, you notice things. No quick paragraph I can write can accurately portray the growing unease and fear I had for one of my students because of how subtle the things he did were. Angelo, like many students, lied a lot, but he did it so friendly at first and he seemed to have good intentions. Slowly, he started to alienate the other kids, answer questions wrong purposely in class, pretend he didn't understand why what he was doing was wrong, etc. I'll already stop your train of thought. But miss, many students do exactly that, to get attention or for many reasons. And this I'm very aware of. I taught almost 200 students over my 2 years teaching, but Angelo was very, very different. Once I overheard him lying to the physics teacher directly outside of my room that he was late to physics because I kept him late. Not only do teachers at my school rarely keep students after class, but at the very least I would have written him a pass. On this particular day, when the bell rang, he just sat there, in my class, while all the other students left with a smile on his face that was just off. It worried me. Regardless, I went out to talk to him and the physics teacher. Me. Angelo, I just overheard you lie to Mr. Physics. I did not keep you late after class, and you know that. Him. Oh, it's okay, miss. You did keep me late. Me. No, Angelo, I did not. You made the decision to sit in class and not leave when the bell rang. Him. No, miss. You told me to stay. I stayed because you told me to stay. Me. Angelo, that simply did not happen. Do you understand that that did not happen? Still smiling, Angelo kept saying that it did happen with no change in emotion and not getting angry or frustrated. It was unnerving. Both myself and the physics teacher had class, so we needed to end this conversation early, and we wrote him up. Angelo was still smiling, his off, odd, terrifying smile. He, to this day, has denied reality every single time he has been caught in a lie. Angelo was a textbook sociopath. He took advantage of other students by learning who they were. He knew that I made emotional connections with my students, that I had empathy and would listen, and he milked that for all it was worth. When caught in a lie, he would just lie more, when every single person knew he was lying. He understood the concept of empathy. He just never actually felt it. He ended up going to a different school after last year. We talked to his mother about him, and she said she realized what we were saying, had seen it before in him, and wanted to send him to counseling. What terrifies me is that sociopaths actually get better at manipulating people by doing therapy. Angelo will probably never be helped. He is the only student that I was actually ever scared of being alone with. Oh wow, what a heartwarming story. It's always so great to hear about students who excel in their studies and are a positive influence on their peers. Oh wait, this isn't that kind of story, is it? No, it's about a charming little psychopath named Angelo who lies and manipulates his way through life with a smile on his face. How adorable! I didn't know that sociopaths actually get better at manipulating through therapy. My mind is blown on that one. I taught an English class in Japan and had one student, a high school boy, who was pretty awkward socially, teased by the other kids, somewhat gothed out, but also rather brilliant technically and artistically. He always seemed sad and angry. I talked to him about it one day after class. His teachers didn't like him. He was getting bad grades. Things were just going in the gutter for him. I told him I could tell he was smart, that his personality just seemed a bit out of place where he was, and that if I were in his position, I'd try to improve the grades a bit just to get the hell out of Dodge. High school is a pain in the butt, and it is probably worse in Japan. The kid loved guns and whatnot, and I was like, go to America, some redneck will hook you up, and you can shoot the hell out of some guns. You'll have a blast. Just put on your best smile for the next couple years, and you'll come out all right. A few months later, his mom comes to me thanking me profusely in Japanese, which I barely understood, and gives me several gifts. According to the other workers, her son had totally turned around his academic performance and was talking to his parents again and told them it was because of what I'd said to him. So I guess that's like the counter story to the scary goths with weapons story you usually hear. In this case, the idea that he could come to America and shoot some stuff caused him to get his rig back on the right road. I wonder if he ever managed to shoot an automatic weapon. Hell yeah, another teacher that cares about the well-being of their students. Love to see it, and well done, teacher. You are an amazing soul, and you possibly just completely saved someone's life without realizing it. Thanks for watching till the end, and don't forget to subscribe and like for more of these ridiculous stories. Love you all, and stay safe out there in that crazy world. Much love. Peace.